Hello, all my Anti-Aging Unraveled followers, listeners, and believers in our philosophy of longevity. It's Dr. Lori, and I'm back with another episode, another podcast for you guys. And this one is actually really exciting to me. And not that they're all not exciting to me, but this one hits home because it is about women and the requirements to really create a new body composition. And this one is called Weight Loss Without Starvation: The New Science of Body Recomposition for Women. And honestly, for years, women have been told they need a certain amount of protein, and we've always focused on this half their body weight in kilograms and all of these things. And I think what you're really going to find is some of the new data really stresses how important it is for women of perimenopausal and menopausal age to really up that protein to be able to put the muscle mass on. Muscle drives metabolism and insulin response and the ability to lose weight. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to optimize that metabolism, other regenerative therapies that we can use in addition to help with that weight loss and body recomposition. So I really, the goal isn't starvation anymore. And yes, while intermittent fasting is still a part of what some people choose to do on a regular basis, that is more for what I would call like a metabolic reset, or the ability of the body to not rely on constant calories and creating some ketotic time or ability for your body to tap into its fat or fat reserves for glucose. But we're not trying to punish you. It's to eat. It's not eat less, move more, suffer through hunger forever. The body is really just trying to resettle and recompose itself as we age. And we're trying to fight that, right? We're trying to make it so that our body doesn't store as much fat. It doesn't get ready for that resting phase when our body gets older and slower. So our goal is to make more muscle, less fat, have better insulin sensitivity, better thyroid output, leptin and early signaling to tell your body that it's full, better energy levels, right? And staying as energetic as possible. And honestly, a body that just feels like yours again. Because the number one thing that I hear in my practice from women is, Dr. Lori, I'm doing everything right. I'm barely eating, or I'm eating the same as I used to. I'm working out. I'm exhausted and I'm not losing weight. And if that's you, I want you to know you're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not lacking willpower. Well, maybe a little bit of willpower, but you've been taught outdated science. And we're going to dive a little bit into that today. And I'm going to give you the updated science, the 2026 version of what actually works. Um, I actually have started adhering to this as well and trying to get my protein in, especially first thing in the morning or before my workouts. And I think this is really important for us to actually bring to the forefront and into, plain sight, if you will. So the weight loss myth that a lot of women are still stuck in is, if you want to lose weight, you need to eat less and exercise more, like I opened the show with. And that advice was basically made for 20-year-old men. Okay. And even then, honestly, it's incomplete. Women have a completely different metabolic reality because of hormone cycles monthly, perimenopausal shifts, estrogen and progesterone decline, cortisol sensitivity, thyroid vulnerability, and the inability of us to convert our thyroid and muscle loss acceleration, excuse me, after 35 years old. So I want to say something bold, and maybe a little outside the box. Women are not small men. Our physiologies are completely different. So we're not just a smaller version of a male. And if you follow weight loss of advice designed for male physiology, what happens? You don't lose body fat. You lose muscle, you lose thyroid output, you lose hair, you lose libido, sleep, mood stability, and in all honesty, your metabolic flexibility disappears. And that's what's happened to a lot of women over time. And then your weight loss stalls, or you gain weight. And your body senses famine or stress or starvation, and it does what it's designed to do. And we've all heard this before, but we don't really believe it to be true sometimes, that it becomes metabolically inefficient. Your body holds on to fat for survival because it thinks it's not going to get its next meal. It sacrifices muscle because muscle is expensive tissue. Okay. So it actually will break down muscle when you are in starvation mode. When women try to lose weight through starvation, they often lose it in the very tissue required what they often lose is the very tissue required to burn fat, which is that muscle, right? The more muscle you have, the more metabolically active you are, and the easier it is to burn fat. So let's talk about what body recomposition looks like. It's to lose fat while building lean muscle. Very difficult to do, right? Because we're in either a catabolic state or an anabolic state. And while I do love this approach, because you can look smaller, tighter, and leaner without the scale moving at all. So we're not necessarily stuck on this weight number. We don't want to get discouraged by this number on a scale. We want to just get encouraged by what you look like in your clothes. So show me your waist is down 2 inches, inflammation is down, cortisol is more stable. Give me some numbers. Glucose is improving, cravings are decreasing, cellulite's improving, body shape is actually adjusting. And that is a win, right? That is a win. We want to recompose and reshape the way the body looks. Again, not as caught up on the scale. We all know women that are like ripped and jacked and look so lean and cut, but their numbers on the scale would be higher than someone who has more of an older model look from the 90s with that waif, skinny, lanky look that is really, one, not very healthy, right? And two, in all honesty, it's not very easy to sustain that metabolically as we age. So the goal is not to be skinny at any cost. It's to be metabolically strong. Strong metabolism equals strong future. So body recomposition is the metabolic medicine version of weight loss. So instead of using these terms as weight loss and lean, I like leaning out, building lean muscle mass, losing fat, and using numbers and real data and not just the scale to actually see that. All right, now we're going to talk about the topic that everyone wants to hear, protein. So the most underrated longevity tool for women. Let's talk about protein. If you're a woman, you're undereating protein, you're unintentionally sabotaging fat loss, muscle retention, appetite control, sleep, hormonal detox and clearance. Yes, hormonal detox, which is a huge one, and immune resilience. And this is one of the biggest missing pieces I see in women who eat clean, air quotes, right? They're eating smoothies, salads, avocados, almond butter, chia, oat milk, and they think they're crushing it. But their body is screaming, where is my amino acid supply for protein, right? Why am I not able to build lean protein? And protein is not just food. Protein is information. It tells your body things. It helps us to make a lot of products in our system. Tells your body we're safe. It also tells you we're not starving. It helps to build lean muscle. You don't want to downregulate the thyroid, which is what'll happen if you actually start to restrict your protein. So what are protein goals? Here's the clinical reality. Most women need way more than they've been told in the past, as I alluded to in the beginning. The protein target is about 30 to 40 grams per meal. So about your body weight in pounds, okay? 120 to 150 a day on average, depending on lean mass and activity and all of those things. Minimum 100 grams a day, minimum, which actually is way more than we used to talk about. We used to talk about half of your body weight in kilograms. Now, if that freaks you out, remember, we are not doing this to become jacked bodybuilders. We're doing this because protein is the anti-starvation signal. It allows you to burn fat and lose fat without metabolic collapse. And protein supports GLP-1 in our body naturally. It increases fullness and satiety. It stabilizes your glucose levels, and it lowers snacking and cravings. All right, so this is why many women say, once I eat enough protein, I stop thinking about food. That food noise actually starts to decrease. Carbohydrates go through very quickly, so that when you metabolize that and you're done, your body wants more. So that's kind of one of the reasons we say like sugar is like crack. It just keeps wanting more and more and more because you go through it very quickly and it stimulates the brain in certain ways. So that is the point, to feel full and not have as much food noise. Protein sources are hard. I understand this, especially for people like me that have a lot of food sensitivities or are very picky eaters. Eggs, turkey, chicken, grass-fed beef, wild salmon, Greek yogurt, coconut yogurts, other types of dairy, whey isolate, hydrolyzed whey, You can do pea protein. You can do hemp proteins if you're dairy intolerant, like I do. Um, you can even fortify those with some branched chain amino acids so that you're getting everything you need in a shake. Um, Collagen is good as an add-on. I get this all the time. It's not really a full protein replacement, so I don't really like to count collagen as part of your protein replacement. Um, it's wonderful for hair, skin, nails, joints, gut repair, but as a complete muscle building protein, it's not something that I typically recommend or use as part of my protein count. Along with these new protein recommendations comes creatine. Creatine for men in bodybuilding world has been talked about forever. But creatine is probably the most misunderstood women's longevity supplement. And I think that really it's the star of today's episode. Creatine for women, if you can take it and tolerate it, you need to start it. This is like the most common misconception. It makes you bulky, it makes you retain water. It's a men's gym supplement. It's unsafe. It's only for bodybuilders. It hurts the kidneys, right? I've heard this too. I need you to hear me. Creatine is the most researched performance and health supplement on earth. And in 2026, the data for women has been exploding. So here's what creatine matters specifically for women. It supports lean muscle retention. So muscle is the engine of metabolism. More muscle, higher metabolic rate, and during menopause and perimenopause, that muscle loss accelerates. So if you're a woman over 35, creatine no longer becomes optional. It is protective. It actually has been shown to really help the mitochondrial energy production. So those little powerhouses of your cell that actually make your energy, it's like a rechargeable battery system for your cells, especially in the muscle and brain, which there's some great data for as well. And women with fatigue, brain fog, low motivation, exercise intolerance respond beautifully to creatine, especially on a regular basis. It does have to be taken daily, or at least 5 days a week or before your workouts. I highly recommend it on an empty stomach before workouts. We have a great one that's actually called Peptistrong. Well, it's Peptistrong with creatine. It's in one of our powders on our website. So I highly recommend that you take advantage of that. It's called Prime Strength. It's a wonderful product with creatine, some amino acids, and Peptistrong, which is a plant-based peptide to stimulate lean muscle production. So again, I'll talk about that. I'll put that into the notes for our podcast today. But creatine for women, also for brain and mood, is huge. Menopause, perimenopause, obviously mood is all over the place. And if you've ever felt like you can't focus, this is everybody, right? I'm exhausted. I don't feel like myself, like we talked about in the beginning. Your brain may be underpowered. Creatine can be part of the solution. That is where the data is really, really strong for brain health and for muscle improvement. So in a podcast where we're talking about body recomposition, creatine allows you to train harder, recover better, get more strength, more muscle, and here's a huge one. The data also supports better insulin sensitivity. So that insulin sensitivity works much better where your glucose is getting pulled into your cells more efficiently with that creatine. You'll also have increased fat loss. Creatine will not make you gain weight and it will not make you gain fat. It will increase intracellular water in muscle, just like testosterone would do. Okay. It actually makes your muscles actually want to hold on to that water and pull it in, which is actually very healthy for muscle tissue. It actually helps you stay more hydrated. It's not a problem. It helps you feel fuller, stronger, more functional, and actually it'll even help with some of those cravings. So I tell women, if the scale goes up 2 pounds, but your waist goes down, you're winning. This is not about the scale. Eventually, if you're severely obese, it might be, but it's about fat loss, okay, and muscle creation. You don't need a loading phase. You don't need to load it and then stay at a certain dose. 3 to 5 grams daily, any time of day. I do prefer fasting, but I always say, if you're not going to do it, compliance is key. So I'd rather you take it than not take it. But with water in a smoothie with electrolytes, consistency matters more than timing, but I do like it personally as part of the first meal a day or before a workout with an empty stomach. Okay. This is one of my favorite ones, cold plunging. So this is huge. We love cold plunging, and but the big difference now is women and men's data are different. Again, we are not the same. So it's a hot topic, no pun intended, but cold plunging has benefits. Improved inflammation signaling. It improves that norepinephrine dopamine tone. So that fight or flight, that excitability, metabolic flexibility. So it helps with some of that insulin response and getting rid of fat cells. We know that it helps with that and it helps with resilience. But here's the truth. Women and men respond differently to cold exposure. Just ask anyone in your household between the husband and the wife. They will tell you that they do not tolerate temperatures the same. And for women, the risk is what we would call cortisol overload. So basically, cortisol getting too high, too much of a stress response, which actually can cause stress signaling. Thyroid conversion will not be very efficient and it'll actually be a little bit underactive. And with that cortisol being high, that's adrenal dysfunction, which can actually be counterproductive to the loss of fat, right? Because it's going to slow down metabolism and increase cortisol and fat deposition. So, if you already have sleep issues, anxiety, high cortisol, belly fat that won't budge, you're wired but tired, and your energy levels, you have afternoon crashes, low progesterone, excessive cold plunging, because you already have adrenal issues, can actually make things worse. Okay. That's a really key point. So, if we're already having adrenal dysfunction and some hormonal dysfunction, you might need to correct that before you start cold plunging as a female. If common signs that cold plunging is too much for women, they feel tired at night. Sorry, common signs that cold plunging may be too much for women. If they're wired at night, you have increased cravings, your cycle changes, more belly fat, increased anxiety and fatigue during the day. All of those things, if you're already cold plunging, are signs that that's not doing a great job for you. And similarly, those are also signs that you might not want to start aggressively cold plunge. So, if your nervous system interrupts cold as a threat, your body responds with cortisol, adrenaline, and glucose mobilization, which in many cases might be good, but it's not always good. All right. So, how should women cold plunge? Start with 30 to 60 seconds, short, 2 to 3 times a week. Do it after strength training or early in the day so it doesn't affect sleep and cortisol response at night. Avoid really long plunges. And if you're already sleep deprived, don't do it. All right. Make sure you're on a good sleep cycle. Avoid luteal phase if it worsens the symptoms of your period. So don't cold plunge during your luteal phase of your period. And don't this is not probably obvious, but don't do it as punishment. You're doing it to try to encourage fat loss and actually those good endorphins to be more regulated. Men can often tolerate a longer, colder exposure and benefit hormonally. Women, we have to respect our nervous systems and our hormone sensitivity, and we cannot do it as long. So, let's talk a little bit about the workout shift and more strength, less punishment. So, this might upset many women. And I know for myself, I was kind of a cardio junkie for a long time. More cardio is not always the answer for women, especially long, steady state cardio under stress. Ironman triathlete I was kind of a cardio junkie for a lot of years, and it really did not serve my body well longer term. Women already live in high cortisol environments. They're working, they're parenting, their decision making, they're fatigued, their sleep is disrupted, and their hormones are shifting constantly, way more than men. So we add a Peloton, we add things that are super high intensity hit, we add fasted workouts, calorie restriction, and our bodies don't necessarily call that fitness. It thinks of it as a threat, especially when it's done all of the time. And that's all we do. So we need to prioritize that recomposition and the encouragement of muscle mass. Strength training 3 to 4 times a week. Walking daily, getting some cardio in, but your hit intervals should be shorter, 1 to 2 times a week, not every day or 5 days a week. And having those recovery days really built into the system so that that you have time to heal, repair, and actually build lean muscle from it. All right. Muscle is your greatest hormone stabilizer and it's your greatest metabolic lever. So we don't want to discourage muscle building and be in a constant catabolic state, which means breakdown. What if you're doing all this and not losing weight? So let's talk about the hidden reasons women don't lose fat, even with good habits. And I do have whole podcasts on this. We're only going to spend a couple minutes on this, but in the beginning of the year, I did one on what I would do for myself to lose weight in 90 days. You can go back and listen to that podcast. But the first one is insulin resistance. And it is an early subclinical finding. It's not your sugars are high, or maybe they are high or intermittently, but your hemoglobin A1Cs or 3-month sugar number is normal. Insulin needs to be checked on labs. You can be thin and insulin resistant. You can be healthy and insulin resistant. You can be eating clean and insulin resistant. And that just means that your body's insulin is not working up to capacity to take your sugar out of the bloodstream and pull it into the cells. We need to work on that insulin sensitivity in order to get that weight to be consistent and that fat loss to come down. Because as soon as that sugar sits, it gets converted to fat. All right. We don't want it sitting around in the bloodstream. Also, low thyroid conversion, not just checking a TSH on labs, checking T3, T4. T4 has to convert to T3 in the body. That is thyroid hormone production. If it cannot do that, your thyroid is not working metabolically as well as it should. And we can look at where you are in the reference range of those and look at some other numbers like reverse T3 and antibodies to your thyroid. If you're fighting your thyroid every day, guess what? We don't know how well your thyroid's really working unless we check those numbers, because if you're fighting it every day, it can be intermittently bad. What happens? How do we get our thyroid lower? Accidentally. Low caloric intake, chronic stress, low iron, chronic inflammation, and estrogen dominance, which some women naturally have already, and some women experience that during perimenopause and menopause. So the thyroid being low. Cortisol mismatch. Again, that cortisol is our root of all evil. It loves to drive belly fat. It loves to make our insulin resistance. And it is a stress marker. So if cortisol is high at night, if it's low in the morning, so you're not sleeping or you're having trouble waking up, if it's chronically elevated, all of those can create a scenario of putting on more belly fat and body fat. And not being able to clear our estrogen. I, again, just did a whole podcast on this one, but our guts are primarily responsible for estrogen metabolism and detoxing it out of our system so that we don't become estrogen dominant. If our guts don't work appropriately, our estrogen doesn't get cleared, and we end up with this detox congestion and estrogen clearance problem. The liver and the gut need to work together in order to do that. And when your liver and gut aren't working, you get water retention, you get fat storage, PMS, heavy cycles, mood changes, and of course, yes, fat. Okay. And that brings me to my final one, which is gut inflammation and food sensitivities. I almost always start in the gut. One, because the gut inflammation and gut immune and the immune system and other food sensitivities and estrogen metabolism all can lead to weight gain. So I almost always start in the gut because the body will hold weight if the gut immune system is inflamed. If you're stuck, you don't need more restriction from calories. You need better data. You need labs. You need testing. We need to see what is going on. That's why integrative labs matter. So today we've covered the new science of body recomposition for women and how it's important to discuss recomposition and muscle gain and body fat loss other than weight loss. So protein, let's talk about what our main points. Protein is the anti-starvation signal. Creatine is a woman's longevity powerhouse. Cold plunge must be done differently in female physiology, so not the same as male. Strength training is imperative, and it's a metabolic medicine workout. Replace much of your cardio with strength training and still get in small bursts of cardio. And fat loss requires safety signals, not stress overload. So your body needs to feel that it is in a good metabolic place in order to not feel like it needs to store fat. So if this episode helped you, please do me a favor, subscribe. We love our new subscribers. Leave us a review. That also helps us so much. And share this with a friend who literally is starving themselves and still stuck, or has any of the issues really with hormonally or gut or immune system that we can fix to try to get this system working and get the recomposition that they want. If you want to dive deeper and have a personalized lab review, as always, visit mydrlori.com and go to Inner Wellness, and you can fill out our wellness or weight loss intake, either one, to get started. It's also under the Get Started Now section. It's kind of all over our website. We'd love to have you get started with us. And listen, because you don't need to starve yourself to lose weight anymore. That is, as we get older, we realize it might have worked when you were younger to lose 5 pounds, but it doesn't work anymore. So you need to become metabolically supported and metabolically strong. And that's what this podcast focuses on, and the new data that really supports treating women differently than men in their protein, creatine, cold plunging, and of course in their metabolic lab systems. So until next time, regenerate, restore, and refresh, and age your way. Until next time, regenerate, restore, refresh, and as always, age your way.